It's December, aka the nationally recognized holiday, Game of the Year month, which means it's time to look back at all the cool games I missed and never got a chance to talk about. Welcome to the Year in Review. I'm Alex, this is First 5, and I'm checking out some of the hottest games of 2022. They're short, they're sweet, and they're already peer-reviewed and probably topping somebody's Game of the Year list somewhere. This time around, I'm looking at a game that specifically got blasted for being too short. Cult of the Lamb, a straightforward but extremely well-polished roguelike that stirred a minor bit of controversy on release for being a mere dozen hours. But here at First 5, these are exactly the games that I try to champion, and while Cult of the Lamb certainly hasn't had any trouble finding an audience, the world could always use a few more short, actually accessible games. So how is it? Most successful games either do something creative that breaks the mold of what we expect from the medium, or just executes on something well-tread and familiar at an extremely high level, and Cult of the Lamb falls squarely in the latter category. It's a dungeon-crawling roguelike mashed together with a simple little town builder that doesn't look to push beyond the basics. Combat is a simple 3-button affair: dodge, hit things, and your special button, and the town building is all about growing your workforce to feed various XP meters to make you stronger during the dungeon-crawling parts. Most of this half of the game just involves taking a break every 15 minutes to gather food, wood, stone, and your cultist poop, with most of the upgrades just being systems to automate those tasks. Likewise, both progression and the roguelike elements are dirt simple. Whether it's a permanent upgrade for wisely leading your flock or a one-time tarot card you discover on your run, you're never going to find anything more interesting than a +5 damage buff. Even narratively, I am squeezing blood from a stone here. It's a real everybody sucks here narrative, where different eldritch gods are trying to kill each other and you're their chosen tool of murder. There's a whole big prophecy that you're going to unleash Ragnarok on one pantheon of gods, so they murder you, only for you to hook up with the devil in the afterlife and get sent back to make good on the prophecy. It's a game narrative that's already 90% over once you're past the first 10 minutes. Go forth on a quest to murder the 4 prime evils, the leaders of the old faith, listen to them smack talk you while you're walking over there, and then give them the axe. The narrative's trying its absolute hardest to keep out of the gameplay's way, which is a terrible shame given how cookie-cutter the gameplay is. If you've played a roguelike or a town builder any time in the past decade, you've played Cult of the Lamb. Normally, that would be a pretty damning statement, especially from me. I'm the guy that was out here 6 months ago talking about how Fall Guys is the best thing since sliced bread, and I just got done fawning over Vampire Survivors, the game where you walk around and things die. Simple? Casual? Easy? These are things I can get behind, but even I found myself pretty underwhelmed by Cult of the Lamb. I've just seen too many other roguelikes to get excited for a paint-by-numbers piece. So what's the fuss about? If there's so little going for it, how did this game end up one of the biggest indies of August? The answer is polish. Movement is kinetic, fights are quick and satisfying, the gameplay loop is extremely well paced, every character is adorable, every pixel is perfect. Cult of the Lamb is white bread incarnate, but it's damn good white bread. I would eat a ham sandwich using this bread. Every inch of this game, even the randomly generated roguelike bits, feels immaculately crafted on both a game feel level and an aesthetic one. As far as pure craft is concerned, Cult of the Lamb is a 10 out of 10. And speaking of aesthetic, that is Cult of the Lamb's other big strong suit. At its most basic, you have some incredibly grim themes: cults, ritual sacrifice, ancient and terrible gods, mashed up with some of the cutest graphics to grace a game all year. It's sort of like if somebody decided to make Diablo a Saturday morning cartoon, especially once you start looking at the grim, corpse-filled set design. And that juxtaposition, unsurprisingly, works really well. The cult theming also does a lot to elevate the incredibly basic gameplay. You can periodically issue new doctrines to your cult, which mechanically are about as interesting as anything else in the game. Every doctrine is an either-or option between 2 ways of manipulating your cult's resources. Do you turn corpses into fertilizer to produce more food for your cultists? Or do you use them to gain more faith, a basic resource you need to maintain to keep everybody happy and in line? Do you motivate your minions to speed up construction, or generate experience for you to level up faster? Do you inspire your cultists to make them generate more experience, or do you intimidate them to make them gather resources faster? But while a decision between +2 faith or +1 fertilizer isn't really an exciting choice, the theming involved offers genuine role-playing opportunities that most other city builders or roguelikes won't. Cult of the Lamb gives you enough space within its system to create a horrific death cult ruled by fear, with any dissenters quickly finding themselves on the ritual sacrifice list, or to basically just make a normal organized religion with you at the center as a Lovecraftian Jesus. You don't even have to engage with the ritual sacrifice if you don't want to. There's a lot of room to be a benevolent leader or a despot, and all of these numbers are so small that they barely matter, so a lot of it simply comes down to pure roleplay. And while I'm listing the random stuff I found cool about Cult of the Lamb, it does have one genius twist in one of its side activities, Knucklebones. I don't usually go for gambling minigames, but this is one of the best I've ever played. The idea is that you take turns rolling dice, and after each die roll you put it into one of 3 lanes. Put 2 matching dice in the same lane, and they multiply each other's value, but if you match with one of your opponent's dice, they have to remove it. The game ends as soon as one person hits 9 dice, and you count up each row's combined values to crown a winner. And I love how this comes together. There's still enough RNG going on that it's genuinely gambling, but because you can make meaningful decisions with full knowledge of what you're working with, you're not just cranking a slot machine. It's a very tightly constructed and clever little minigame. It's not enough to sell a game all on its own, but honestly, it's the best part of Cult of the Lamb. But on that high note, let's get to the big question. What do you get out of 5 hours with Cult of the Lamb? I personally cleave my way through 2 of the 4 chosen gods I have to hunt, but assumedly this process is going to start slowing down a bit as I get to the harder ones. Likewise, I'm about halfway through most of the progression trees, and it's worth pointing out that the game has a lightning fast core loop with no activity ever taking more than 10 minutes. It's a very easy game to slip in and out of. But despite being an honestly quite good game, I do feel a hollowness when I play Cult of the Lamb. It's a popcorn flick, one I've already seen 100 times. It's perfectly entertaining in the moment, but after 5 hours, I just cannot muster the motivation to hit the play button again. I'm kind of surprised to see people complain about how short this game is when I have a hard time imagining this gameplay stretching out for another dozen hours. There's just not enough meat here for that. If the game looks interesting to you, by all means, I think you'll have a good time with it, especially if you don't play a ton of roguelikes. But if your time is at an extreme premium, if you're looking for something more than just a way to kill time, best look elsewhere. So that's Cult of the Lamb in a nutshell. If I haven't dissuaded you from it, seriously, do go give it a try. And if you've got some spare cash after that and like this video, consider hitting up my Patreon, because I too needed to eat and would very much appreciate the tip. But I hope you enjoyed this review of Cult of the Lamb, and I'll see you all next time.